Hello, guys, and welcome back to another installment of Galley Stories, Stories of the Bering Sea and Beyond. I am your host, Mark Kaler. And today we have the mate and the deck boss from the Great Pacific. We're going to call you, I guess, first mate today.
Okay, sounds good.
If that sounds all right. Dana Cox. Dana, how are you today?
Can't complain. Beautiful day.
Excellent. Now, you caught up on several of the episodes anyway, so you pretty much know how this format's going to go. So, as I normally say, let's dive right into it. Where were you born and what brought you into the industry?
Well, I was born in the small southwest town of South Bend, Washington, about 3.5 hours from here. I grew up there until I was about 12 years old. And, my mother remarried and moved up the highway about 30 miles to another small town, logging town, called PL. Pronounced that way, like a P and an L, and that's where I was born and raised, and I still live there now.
Any water around?
Lots of rivers.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what brought you to the industry itself?
Well, my working career started right after high school. I wanted to go to college. I had all intentions on going to college, but problem was I liked money and I liked girls. So the way to get those were to go to work. Anyways, in our town, what every young man does that doesn't want to go to college, he goes to work in the woods. And that's what I did. I went to work for Weyerhaeuser.
Logging.
Logging. I worked there for 12 years before I started this.
So you were 18 or 19?
18.
18.
Yep.
And how that's another industry, like there could be an entire new branch of podcast just about that industry. It's just as dangerous, just as fierce. How was that experience as an 18-year-old kid?
Oh, it was exciting. I mean, especially back then, that was I graduated in 2000 and started logging for Weyerhaeuser in 2001, and I just remember all my peers, all my older peers, and people that I respected highly in my community had nice homes, had nice cars, a wife and kids, and had land, and I wanted all that, and they had it. Well, the short story of it, that's what got me into fishing. Well, inflation, logging didn't keep up with inflation. We were working hard, cost of everything was getting higher, and we weren't making any money. I needed to make more money. So that's what got me here, was the money's still here, fishing. And that's what I wanted to do.
So you picked up a want ad?
Oh, yeah, sorry. No. Well, the story goes, my dad and my stepmom come to my daughter's 5th birthday. Well, I blew the engine up in my pickup, and it was sitting in the driveway. And my dad asked me why my truck wasn't running. And I said, well, I need to get a new engine for it. I blew it up, and he's like, well, why don't you get that done? I said, well, I can't afford it right now. He's like, what do you mean you can't afford it? Well, I got a mortgage. I got 2 other car payments. I got 2 kids now, and it's just, I'm not paying the bills. And that's when my dad told me, he said, you need to come fishing. And boy, I thought about that a lot. And I watched the show, I watched Deadliest Catch. And I've always looked at it and said, and they always, how at the end of every episode they talk about how much money each crew member had made, mm-hmm. and how long they were gone, this and that. I'm like, man, I really think I could do that, So when my dad put that little bug in me, and then every day I was going to work and I was coming home, and we were paycheck to paycheck. Wolves are always knocking at the door, and it just sounded better and better. And finally one day I was driving a log truck at the time. See, I worked on the rigging for 6 years, and then I started driving a log truck for 6 years. That's what I did there. And I remember sitting on the landing one day thinking to myself, just thinking about all the bills I had to pay, what I got to do to make everything work. Finally, I just kind of snapped. I called my old man on the phone, and I said, I'm ready. I said, I want to go. He said, are you serious? I said, yeah. I said, I'll put my 2 weeks in right now. I've had enough. I'm sick of not being able to pay the bills. And, of course, my old man, you know him well, but he gave me the real rundown. You got to be this, you got to do that, and you better be serious about it if I'm going to take you under my wing and show you what I know. And I told him, I said, I was willing. I'd already talked to my wife prior to talking to my dad about it, and she's had enough too.
Well, you got to talk to the boss.
Yeah.
I just want to reiterate real quick. Your dad's Guy Cox.
Correct.
Very well respected guy in our industry.
Okay.
And so, having him as your in, it's a pretty good in to have.
Yeah, it sounded. Yeah, it sure was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it worked out great for me. But yeah, so my wife was, our marriage was on the rocks. It was, times were tough, But so my dad said, let's do it. So he said, I got to make a few phone calls. He had just gone from the Aldebaran. He worked at Trident for 10 or 11 years on the Aldebaran. And then an opportunity came open on the Great Pacific. And he knew a couple of the guys over there. And he went over there. They were getting repowered. They're getting, everything was getting redone. Anyways, and they needed it. They needed a new guy, a new deckhand, a greenhorn. So I was the guy. And
so with your dad the first year?
Yeah.
How great was that? Or how bad was that?
Well, all the stuff that I learned from my dad was amazing. I find myself now, I still haven't been in this industry that long, but I've learned a lot from him, and I find myself all the time using a lot of the ways that he taught me, the way that I use on my crew now. And my wife tells me, it's probably daily. He goes, you're just like your dad. You're just like your dad. And I'm like, no, I'm not. Nothing like my dad. But anyways, I find myself using, a lot of the things that my dad did that he taught me. I find myself doing the same things because he taught me right.
Mm-hmm. No shortcuts. Just do it right the first time. Don't have to come back again.
Yeah. Measure twice.
You bet.
Finish it once.
So the Great Pacific, you started, that was 6 years ago then?
Correct.
All right, so 30 years old when you were starting.
Right.
It's good to be starting on a pollock boat at 30, better than a crab boat at 30.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean? You'll get some more years out of it anyway.
Right.
Started going, last 6 years you've been doing pollock.
Yep.
You guys tender it all in the summers? Or
Nope.
Just straight?
Strictly A and B season pollock.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. I've worked for a really, really great company, and that's just all we do.
So how long are you gone?
Well, let's see. A season starts, January 20th, and we're usually home 2.5, 3 months. And then B season starts June 10th or something like that. I don't know. So it's I don't know. It can go anywhere from 5.5 months at work throughout the year, split up to six months. But that's about it.
How's that been for your marriage and your family life?
It saved us. It completely saved us. It saved my wife and I's marriage. With my kids. Everybody asks me, how can you be away from your kids that much? I'm saying, well, let's do the math on this. How long am I actually gone? I'm actually home more. When I was at Weyerhaeuser, when I was logging, I was gone way more when you add the numbers up. And my quality of time home, it's uncomparable.
You have the finances to do the fun things. You got
the
time to really invest into just being a parent.
Yeah, and when I'm home, I'm home. I remember getting home. I'd leave the house at 3 o'clock in the morning, and then get home around, in the wintertime, 6:30, 7 o'clock at night. And it's dark. I remember jumping in the shower. You'd be in your underwear, sitting on your easy chair, eating your dinner, trying to talk to your kids, trying to talk to your wife, and you'd fall asleep with your plate, your wife taking the plate out of your hands, and that's where you'd sleep, on the chair. Mm-hmm. So, and then on the weekends, you got to try to cram. You got 3 acres, you got a house to take care of, you got 2 kids and a wife that you got to cram into 2 days, and then you want to try to make a vacation time, and boy, it just doesn't work.
Right.
And then you can't afford it anyways. So yeah, that part of it wasn't very spectacular at all.
Game changer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in the 6 years, everybody's got a scary story. I mean, even guys that only been up for 3 months, there's been a time during that point in time when they were scared. Do you remember, first of all, the first time that you were scared?
The first time I was
the
scared?
The first time. Not the scariest time, the first time.
The first time. Well, the first time was the day I walked on the boat. Because the boat, you got to remember, the old captain retired and the new captain took over. And the old captain knew he was retiring for a while. So there was a lot of stuff. You got to remember, I've never even really been on a boat, ever. And so my interview happened right over here at Foss. The boat was up in the ways. It's getting repowered. And I remember my dad meeting me outside the gate. And I remember my head was just a mess. I didn't know what I was going to do, but he was going to take me on the boat. I had to go get interviewed in the wheelhouse by the big boss, the captain, the mate at the time. And my dad didn't want to be no part of it. So he stayed away from that part. But I remember coming across the gangway and just looking at the boat. I mean, it's in the yard. It's just fucking thrashed.
Torn apart.
I've never seen anything like. I'm like, this is where I'm going to. I had, I watched, like I said, everything about fishing I've seen on TV or heard from my dad. And it sounds pretty comfortable, and looks pretty comfortable. Well, boy, what I walked into and I was scared. I was shaking. I went up, and these stairs were steep, and there's 2 flights of stairs to get to the wheelhouse, and the wheelhouse is big, and there's the captain and the boss and the mate, and they started asking me questions. That was the first time I was scared when I seen what I was going to be a part of, and I was really questioning my decision.
There's nothing like walking into a boat and shipyard, though. I mean, everything's torn apart. Winches are torn apart. There's grease everywhere. There's just stuff that doesn't even belong on deck that's
right.
everywhere. Welders are going. People are needle gunning. There's so much noise and racket, and nothing's where it should be, so it all looks disorganized. So I can imagine that as that being the first introduction versus seeing a platform all ready to go.
Right.
And in shipyard, she probably didn't have a coat of paint on her yet either. So she had just been out 3 years with no paint and just beat the hell out of and chipped up and.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But so that was I like to tell that story. People ask me at home. I tell them stuff like that. But the really, truly first time I was actually scared was when we left Seattle. So we had the new repower. It was over a 5-month shipyard. By the time we got everything done, we were going to go into A season in the middle. They were plans of us missing the whole season. But we got done. The welders were, when they kicked us off the dock, the welders were literally welding plates back on the side of the mast. And as soon as that welding lead came off the boat, they shoved us off. We had to do our drill still. We had to, we had all kinds of stuff. We haven't really ran the boat much, but I remember that night, I think it was like February 17th. But we came through and we were in the locks. My wife and kids were there, my stepmom, and I remember the kids were real little then. They were running up and down the locks, screaming. I'm on the bow at the time. That was my spot, and I remember it was dark. You couldn't really see me, but I could see the lights of the locks. And anyways, I see the kids running up and down, and it started snowing. It's the first snow of the winter. And I remember I didn't know where I was going, what I was getting into. It scared the shit out of me right there. And then I remember we got through and we left town, and we got through the straits, and the weather came up right away. And I've never seen anything like that. I remember about the 3rd day of the weather, and we were getting our asses kicked right away, and there was alarms going off. We're trying to fix the bugs, and I didn't know what was going on. I was just, go do this, go do that, go grab here. I need a wrench.
And you're thinking everything's mission critical. You're running everywhere.
Oh yeah. But anyways, like the 3rd day, Captain Dan comes up to the wheelhouse, and I'd stand right in the middle of the wheelhouse, and I'd hold on there, and he said, he goes, "When's the last time you went to sleep?" I said, "I don't know, Dan." He goes, "Have you left here?" So I would go from the port side wheelhouse chair to the middle. When my legs would get tired, I'd go stand over there or go sit down. But he goes, "You've been up for 3 days." He goes, "You need to go to fucking sleep now." Well, nobody told me. My dad was tired too. You know, he was all over the place then. There was so much stuff going on. But he told me you need to go to sleep because nobody told me when I was supposed to be up, when I was supposed to sleep, when it was my turn.
You're just staying awake.
You know, because with all the crap going on, we didn't have like a normal wheel watch. You know, it was like my dad here, Dan here, Scott here. Everybody was all a part of it, and I was just kind of frozen in time, just watching everything. So I always tell the stories like, you see, the new guys say, see these fingernail prints in the wood in the teak right here? Those are mine from holding on for 3 days straight, and the captain made me go to bed. So that's normal stuff. But the scariest, or do you want to know?
Yeah.
The worst time?
Scariest. The
worst time. So what was that?
The pucker factor.
The pucker factor. Well, that was, it's the same. Bless their souls, but it was the same night that the destination went down. A couple A seasons
January
ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah, correct. We actually when they came out of the spit, we were leaving Dutch Harbor the same time. For some reason, our captain actually took a video of them. We were steaming side by side. And they took a left, we took a right. We kind of went northeast. They went northwest. They went toward St. George. But I remember it was a shitty night. I remember it was going to be cold. We were planning on going out. We knew the weather was going to be shitty getting out there. But the plan was, once you get there, it's going to be okay. It's going to come down. We're going to be able to fish. Ain't going to be no problem. Well, we got up there that night. And we got on fish quick. We had a little crew meeting. It's like, you guys want to do this? Weather was shitty, and it was freezing, icing conditions, and we all agreed. I was kind of in charge of that decision at that time then too, and I said, yeah, we can do it. I said, as long as you go slow, Cap, and we'll take our time. Don't rush anything. We'll do everything safe. We'll get it done. So we set the gear. We go in the house, everything went fine. Well, it was a quick tow, like 2 hours or something like that, and we were full.
How big of a bag on?
125 ton.
Okay, yeah.
So we're hauling back, and we get up to the first zipper. All the weather's hitting us. I think we're towing, we're towing south, like we're towing almost directly back towards Dutch. And all the weather's coming on the starboard side. Everything, we're kind of in the ditch. We're trying to stay out, but it's just not working. Sometimes you just can't control that part.
And dragging 125 tons.
Right. And we get the bag up on board. I work on the starboard side. I run the deck from the starboard side and communicate with the chief. He's up forward on the port side. Anyways, and the bag comes up on board, and the boat rolled, and it's almost like it's stuck, like you got stuck in mud.
It just kind of froze there.
It just froze. And next thing you know, I look around, I'm up to my waist in water. Water comes over the boat all the time. It comes in and it goes out the scuppers. Well, this time it didn't go away. And I look up, I stand up on the rail, and I'm looking up at Captain. And then I look over, I'm looking up at the chief, and everybody's just kind of froze. And I go, hey, I said, I'm up to my fucking waist in water. Something's wrong here. And, the captain screams down in the hailer. He says, hey, Chief, go down and check that number 4 wing tank on the starboard side. He goes, we must have, that's just buoyancy. We never put fuel in there or nothing. He said, either we put fuel in there or we pumped a hole in the
water
boat.
In there, yeah.
Well, he said, so the chief runs down, he comes back up. He goes, there's nothing in there. I'm like, well, what the fuck is it then? Well, we had quite a bit of ice on the starboard side of the boat, and the chief says, it's ice. I said, bullshit, it's not the ice. That's not that much ice. I've seen a lot more ice on this boat than that. Anyways, I didn't argue. We grabbed the ice hammers. We went up on the bow. We started on the bow.
You're still listing. You're still.
Oh, we're laid over. The bag's dangling there. I was ready to cut the cod end open and dump the whole shittery and see if that would work. get rid of the fish. But we weren't that quite scared yet. But we were trying to come up with a solution to the problem. And so we go up there. We spend 45 minutes busting ice from the bow all the way to the stern. And I knew it wasn't the problem. I just knew it. It was just not enough. We bust the ice, nothing's happening. Well, in the meantime, the captain goes down the shaft alley and goes down to that number. It's all the way on the back of the boat, stern, on the starboard side. And he comes back up. He said that fucking number 4 wing is full. So we're trying to figure out what to do. It's like, well, on our fuel manifold, we can hook a hose up there and suck it right out and pump it overboard. It's just water, fuel. It doesn't matter at this point. We're fucking, we're going to roll over, and the weather's shitty.
Yeah.
And
and you're in the trough.
We're in the trough,
yeah.
and we can't get out of it. Well, then we come back, so I get...
In comparison, it's kind of like driving a truck pulling a 20-foot rig behind you, and your tongue just got 10 feet longer, and it's windy out. You got no control over nothing.
Raj.
Yeah.
Raj. So, and then I come back out on deck. So we start dumping a little bit at a time. We start dumping the fish. I'm like, let's just see what happens. We start getting rid of fish. We start dumping fish, and the boat it kind of wants to come back, but not all the time. And then I just happened to look behind me. Well, there was a bunch of everything. All the cards were stacked against us that night. Ice, ditch, water, in our number 4 in a buoyancy hold. And then I look behind me. There's 2 scuppers that are aft there, and one was stuck shut. A wave hit it and slammed it and got it stuck inside the coaming, and it was stuck shut. The other one was stuck open. So essentially, we had a fucking water pump running on the starboard back deck with all the other crap going on.
Yeah.
So then we went and I figured that out. We ran over there and we got a rod. We beat that scupper open, and all the water went out.
Just that quick.
It went out. So then we just ended up dumping the bag, just like normal. The boat still had a little bit of a starboard list, but it came back, and it was not really a problem. We were heavy over there, but we ended up, I think that, we were all a little bit freaked out. So I think we just went with half a load into town, and then, had the divers come down and, found a hole. Well, what would happen is years and years ago, way before any of us were on the boat, they punctured a hole in that number 4 wing tank with a door, landing a door one night. They had a little rough night then, and they had a hole in it, and it filled up with water. Well, when they fixed that, obviously there was a little bit of water left in there, and it ended up rotting a hole in the boat over time that nobody knew. They didn't open it up and check it enough. So anyways, that was the scariest night. I had my best friend, which is the new chief engineer now, Ryan. That was his first time on the boat. I think it was like his 3rd trip.
So he was on there that night. That was 2 years
He was
ago.
on there. Yeah.
Don't make the mistake of calling him Brian.
Don't call him Brian. He's not okay with that. But I remember he was on the port side. He's standing by the weight chain.
Did he come over as chief?
It was a plan long time ago I put in place where I thought he was essentially going to be our chief, and it's worked like magic so far. So
he already had some previous experience then.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
not fishing, but mechanically, shit like that.
Sure.
But I just remember the look on his face, and I remember getting to town after that, and we were getting all that stuff fixed. He said, I remember him telling me, he's like, so I get to go fishing for my first time, and I'm going to die. My first trip out, my first season. He's like, this is where I'm going to die. I remember because he has a great big beard, right?
This is during the event?
Yeah. And I remember looking over him. I was not panicked, but I was not feeling good about the situation. But I remember looking over, his fucking beard was frozen sideways. He's got this great big beard.
It's got to be a foot long.
Oh, yeah. His eyes were that big around. Yeah, he was a little bit panicked. And we all were. But we lived through it, and we learned from it. And then man, the boat's gotten nothing but better since it, and we've got it all figured out and replaced, and we're just good as gold right now.
Excellent.
Knock on wood, you know.
Excellent. So, I want to give you a chance to freestyle.
Okay. I don't know what that means.
It means just give me another story. It doesn't have to be a scary one. It doesn't have to be a great one. Just something memorable, or.
Huh. Let's see. I don't know. What do
you got those favorite stories you like to tell?
Oh yeah, got lots of. We've got a little Vietnamese guy. He's our net man. He was actually one of the main net builders for 21 years at Hampton.
Okay.
And the guy's he's a rock star net man. And we own him. He's ours. We love the guy. I wouldn't want to be on the boat without him. But we were doing a safety drill one time, and this always cracked us up. And you got to be careful with this guy. His English is okay, but he takes everything that you say. He doesn't understand our sarcasm, you know. And we're doing this safety drill, and we're talking about we're doing a man overboard. And the captain's going, I don't care. He goes, you know, throw shit in the water. If you see him, throw everything on the boat, anything that you can grab, throw it in the water. If there's a hammer, just throw it towards the guy. And I said, wait. Time out, Cap. You cannot tell fucking Thomas to throw a hammer. I said, I might be holding on to the side of the boat and he'll throw a fucking hammer at me. I said, we just went from a man overboard to a unconscious man overboard. I was probably going to crawl back up on the boat, but until the guy hit me with a hammer. You got to be careful. You got to be literal with this guy. So, I mean, there's stories like that. We've got so many. I don't think you got enough time to. I can't believe I've only been doing this 6 years and I've got stories stacked up. But
you get some fun stories.
Fun stories.
Yeah, remember
oh well.
Had some good days. I'm sure.
Oh yeah, me and my chief engineer, my best friend.
That's Brian.
Ryan.
I had to throw that in there for him so when he listens he can.
We got to town early one time. It was his first bee season, and it was a beautiful day. We busted our ass, got all of our work done at the dock, and we still had like 2 days in town. It's like, well, let's go fishing. So we got a little skiff. We went out one day. Him and I, we drove over. Have you been to Dutch Harbor?
Oh yeah, many
so
times.
You know, like if you're going towards Safeway, you look across and there's the waterfall. So we took the skiff out there. We trolled for pinks and sockeye. But anyways, we caught pinks. Then we went rock fishing. We set a crab pot. It was just a beautiful summer day. We drove all the way over to the waterfall and climbed up to the top of the waterfall. I mean, it was just, stuff like that. I mean, those are the memories that I have that I like to hold on to. And then
there's guys that pay thousands of dollars to do that.
That's what we always joke about. It's like we could go out and just take somebody on our little skiff and take them and catch rockfish. These sea bass are, 5 to 8 pounds. And you catch them, you could throw a friggin' beer can tab on your hook and let it flutter down and catch one every cast. And that's what we always say too. So, but we came back with our limit full of freaking, we were catching snow crab, and we can't keep the king, so we had to throw those back. But we had our limits of crab, sea bass, pinks, and then we caught a bunch of juvenile black cod too. They were running in there. We were catching the shit out of those. But
that's my wife's favorite, man.
Yeah. So we come back that night, and the relief captain was running the boat at the time, and we just pull right up the side of the boat and bring the crane down and pick up everything off the boat. And we were stuck filleting fish until like fucking 6 a.m. I mean, we just had so much stuff.
That's a tough life to be stuck filleting all that fish. Like,
so, yeah.
You're gonna take home as a home bag.
Yeah, I mean, stuff like that. We get to enjoy stuff like that. And then when you leave town and the weather's, the forecast is shitty, but the man upstairs has got he's got a good plan for how we're going to attack it. And when the plans work out and you come back and you ain't got 3 days worth of gear work and bullshit to fix, and you got a boat full of fish,
You didn't go sideways?
Didn't go sideways in the trough, and yeah. And you get it done. I mean, you come back to the dock, you feel like somebody. That's what I love about this job. It's like every time you complete, it's like you complete a mission. You know, when you get back, it's like, yeah, you really did something. Then when you go home and you see your wife and your kids, they're proud of you. They're proud of what you've done. They know about it.
How old are your kids now?
My daughter, Sarissa, is 13. My son, Bronson, is 11. And they'll be listening to this. And
do you see this in their future?
My son, I always tell him he's going to be my deck boss, because his grades are okay, but he's not crazy about school. My daughter's just off the charts good at school, and they're both really stud athletes and stuff like that. So I'm chasing them around with sports and stuff like that. I try to use it as motivation for my son. Bronson, yeah. I try to use it as motivation for him to try harder in school. But I got plans on bringing him up in the summertime already, and I think he's going to be like his old man, like I'm like my old man.
There's a lot of guys that are taking their kids up in the sun, well, for tendering.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of a more mellow environment. Some of them, Casey McManus, his son's going up at 7 and 8 years old.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and
it was like Jack's stories. You know,
well, Gus has been on a boat since he was 6 months old.
Oh, I love that story he tells.
Do you know Gus very well?
No, I've never met him.
He's probably the most level-headed younger man. I mean, he's not a kid for sure, but I mean, he's just got everything dotted right down. You know, just he's been on the water so long.
Right.
You know.
Right.
But he's been going since he was just nothing.
Yeah. So I love that story. You know, I've got to meet Jack a few times, and he's told me some of his stories. And he tells me that story about Gus when he came home. You know, that's when he was fishing 10, 11 months out of the year, and he came home, and I think he said Gus was 8 years old, and he gave him a wedgie or something. You've probably heard this story.
My panties?
He called them his panties. He said he told his wife, walked in the kitchen and told his wife right then he's going to Alaska with him next season.
He called them his panties.
Missed a month of school and everything. Yeah. I just think that's great.
I still tease Gus about that.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, there's no reason not to. I mean, this is one of those trades. I think that I've been trying to push the envelope. I mean, I'm from a little tiny town. It's like logging or nothing out there, and the logging industry is just
not recovered.
It's just it's gone. I mean, especially Weyerhaeuser, it's like the evil empire of logging. That's what owns our town. Now our town's turning into a ghost town because they're downsizing and they're turning it all into this REITs, this real estate investment company, and all they're doing is they're owning the land and contracting everything off. So it's kind of getting rid of all of the, the loggers where I'm from. So nobody can afford to live there. But I'm always trying to encourage the kids that are coming out of high school there where I'm from. It's like, come on, there's this industry. That's when I got into it. I started looking around. I'm pretty observant. You come to the dock. You look at the guys running the boats. You look at the guys running the decks. Even my old man, I mean, he's going to listen to this, but he's not.
You think he will?
He's not exactly.
I don't think he's listening to one of these.
He's not exactly a spring chicken. He acts like it on the boat. I mean,
he moves.
He gets around just fine. But there's an expiration date to everybody's career. I mean, so that's why I've been trying to encourage these younger kids, especially from out where I'm from. Like Elmer Luce too. I live 15 minutes away from Elmer. It's like, if you guys don't got a plan, try it out.
Why don't you explain it to them now? Because I'm sure some of them are listening.
Well,
what's your suggestion for them?
My suggestion would be, for one, contact, if you know a local fisherman that's up here in the Bering Sea or even in Bristol Bay or something like that, and if you're interested in it and you don't really know what your plans are in the future, contact them. If you know them, contact them and ask them about it. And there's money to be made. I mean, it's just like my chief engineer now. Him and we took our boys fishing one day. We were parked on this old logging road, and he was doing some job that he wasn't real happy with, and we were walking down the road. The boys were running up ahead of us, and he said, "Hey, what do I got to do? Come do what you do." And I said, "Are you serious about it?" And he said, "Yeah."
Same thing your dad said. Are you serious about it?
And he was dead serious about it. I said, "Hey, it's going to take a while." I said, I'm gonna work on it though. I promise." And there he is. And now he's just as happy and proud as I. He's probably more proud than I am. I mean, I'm very proud of what I do, but so is Ryan, not Brian. Brian don't give a shit about it. Ryan cares. But yeah. For the young men and women too. I mean, if you want to get into it, I mean, there's money to be made. It's a career. It's a family. It's a family thing.
It really is.
When you see other fishermen, whether they're crabbing, tendering, stuff, you guys, we all kind of have respect for one another. I understand that, crabbing's a lot more physical demanding job and this and that. But you talk to some of the crabbers and they'll tell you, they know that our job's a little bit, tougher mentally and this and that. But it's one big family and you can make a career out of it. You can raise a family on fishing.
Well, it saved your family.
It saved my family. Completely did.
Well, what's your wife's name?
Tanya.
Tanya,
yeah.
Still together?
Beautiful Polish woman. Yeah. Yeah, we're still together. We've been married. We just celebrated our 15-year anniversary in September.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, we're doing good.
Do any more kids? Or are you just the two and done?
I don't know. She might have, I don't know. She might be 9 months away. I had a pretty good weekend.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, you're in so you just came back from fishing, and now you're in shipyard for probably another 2 months or a month and a half or so.
Oh no.
You going to January?
They told us they want us done by this Friday.
Oh, great.
We've been here already for 2 months, and it wasn't. This is the first shipyard. This will be my third shipyard on the boat, and this is the first time it hasn't been something catastrophic where it's been.
Third shipyard on the boat.
Yeah.
In 6 years.
Correct.
So you're doing every 2 years. You're having a shipyard.
Well, we had to do one short. We had to do a short one or a quicker one than normal because we had a catastrophic steering problem. We had to come to Seattle and get fixed. So that we came a year early. That's why I'm in my third shipyard. But yeah, I'm learning how to do the yard. I know there's lots of old salty dogs out there saying, "Oh, I'm a fucking kid. I've been in 25 shipyards."
Well, it used to be when you were in shipyard, you weren't paid for it.
Right.
That was labor you did to keep your spot on that deck.
Right.
So nowadays, though, you still get paid for shipyard.
Well, you know why they pay you for shipyard now, though. Because it's cheaper than the insurance and fucking you getting pissed off and walking off the boat and say you've rolled your ankle. I mean, that's my philosophy on it. But yeah, we get paid and we're happy. I would be there regardless. I would be there. So I went from making, I was driving log truck for Weyerhaeuser. I was making $26 an hour. Then I went to shipyard, my first shipyard, to making $12 an hour. You want to talk about the wolves calling?
Oh yeah,
knocking on the door.
That's right. Because when you first came, they were in shipyard.
They were in the yard.
How long that last?
5.5 months.
So your wife's going, I'm not sure we made the right decision here.
But my old man was right there saying, "Hey, wait till you get fishing. It's going to work out." And I was stressing, and the guys
not answering the phone.
And the guys took care of me. My dad, my captain. As long as you work hard for somebody, they'll take care of you. I mean, that's what I love about it. It's a family. I mean, they'll take care of you. Even, I was grinding my ass off with my dad. I was within, 2 feet of my dad for 12 hours a day. And my dad, when we were in the yard too, we'd work 12 hours. Then everybody would leave. All the vendors would leave. And then we'd punch out. And then that's when the work began. Then we'd clean the whole fucking boat for a couple hours. Before we were done. Old man's old school. Which is great. It gave me some great values. Did you ever get any more words
out of him? Because he doesn't talk a lot. He's pretty...
He talked to me too much, I think.
Yeah?
I think he talked to me too much. We were stuck together. I had to do it. We had to work together. Clean together. Then we ate together. Watched a movie. It was just rinse, wash, repeat.
Groundhog Day.
5.5 months, and he was driving me to work. We were driving back and forth from work. We'd leave 4 o'clock on Monday morning, stay all the way till Friday, drive home Friday. I'd get to maybe a lot of times we were working Saturdays then too. But yeah, but I always like this. I'd always ask my dad where a tool was or something Where's this, Dad? I'm looking for this. He would just look at me and he'd say 124 feet.
That's how big the boat is.
What the fuck does that mean?
That's how big the boat is. It's somewhere in there.
Find it. That was the best thing about being in shipyard for that long is I knew where everything was. If somebody needed something, I knew how to go get it.
When everything's torn apart and you got to put it back together, that's the best learning experience you can get.
Yeah.
Is when it's torn apart.
Yeah.
Well, it's better to tear it apart and then help put it back together.
Yeah.
But definitely that hands-on experience, you can't replace that.
Right. Right.
So we're pushing our time here.
Okay.
Dana, anything else you want to cover before we wrap this up? Any shout-outs?
Shout out to my, like I said, my wife, Tanya, and my beautiful daughter, Sarissa, and my knot-headed boy, the curly-headed midget, Bronson, and Captain Dan, G-Dubs.
You call him the best captain up there. You said that before we started recording.
I've only been on one boat. And as far as, catches his fish, he's got a plan, he's got a mission. He runs a tight crew. If you don't cut the mustard, the way he says it, he lets you hang yourself. And he's been teaching me. I've moved up the ladder probably faster than most, just by pure attrition because I've stuck it out. But he's the real deal. He's the nicest guy you'll ever meet, but he's also the toughest guy you'll ever meet. And I'd love for you to interview him. He would be a great interview, and I'm sure all my fellow fishermen out there, especially the captains, they would love to hear a galley story from Captain Dan.
You hear that, Dan? Just reach out a little bit, and we'll get this thing done.
Yeah, but I love this industry. It saved my life. It saved my marriage, and put me in a really good position to be successful for the rest of my life. And I'm happy to be a part of it.
It was a game changer. It was a definite game changer for you.
Total.
So would you change anything about it?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I'm moving along, like I said, faster than normal, and I'm just going to keep my nose to the grind and see where it can take me. And I'm going to just keep going, and I want to be a part of it, and I want to be a part of it moving forward.
Well, it sounds like you're pretty rooted in it, and you're going to be. So with that, I want to just make sure that we do cover the bases in saying that if you're going to eat seafood, eat wild Alaska seafood.
Oh, man.
And if it's not wild Alaska seafood, at least make it wild.
Yeah.
None of that farm stuff, right?
Yeah, absolutely not. That's one of my wife's main things. She looks at a menu. We like shrimp. It's always, is it farmed? Is it this? But I got to say, especially I was a big halibut and cod guy. But once I started to eat pollock, like they sell the pollock in shatter packs. If you guys have never tried it, if you like cod, it's the same thing. It's actually a little bit better. It's a smaller fillet. It's easier to cook. You don't, especially if you fry it.
Well, it's a whitefish, so it's going to take any seasoning you want.
It's delicious.
It's going to just absorb it.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that I give a shout out to Pinka Jane. She actually started listening just a few weeks ago. Met her at another live recording in a podcast, and she sent me an email. So I just want to make sure we give a shout out to her too. But anything else you want to cover? We're pushing it here.
No, I'm good. I
good?
Thank you, Mark, for contacting me and asking me to come over. I appreciate it, and I'm glad to be a part of it. This thing's pretty cool. I love listening.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. Just get those stories before they're gone. Because
exactly.
Just like the night that you were scared back in January when we lost the destination crew. We lost a lot of stories there.
On that note, I forgot about that. So in our fleet, another shout out, it's the Great Pacific, the Alaska Rose, the Bering Rose, the Seawolf, and the Destination. The Destination's a big pollock trawler, big mud boat. So we got that call after we got our stuff all figured out and settled in and figured we weren't going to roll over and die or go in the water. But we got a call on the radio that the Destination's E-Bird was off and there was no Mayday.
And
they were out there with us. So that was, it doesn't change that it was still a tragedy, but it hit really close to home for us because, we didn't even know there was another destination at the time. We didn't know that there was a crab fishing vessel. There, yeah. We didn't know. Even though we were running out with them, we didn't pay attention to the name, but and my heart goes out to all their the families and friends that lost their friends that night, because we thought that we lost
For
some
a brief
really
moment, you felt
close
that.
ones.
Yeah.
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 So.
All right, guys. Well, we're going to cut it off here, and thank you all for listening. Dana, thanks for coming and sharing your story. It's been epic, actually.
Cool. Thanks.
So I appreciate you taking the time. And with that, guys, this has been another installment of Galley Stories, Stories to Bering Sea and Beyond. And we will see you next time.